Good morning, friends. This is Liquidy, the travel and the travel free person. How are you this morning? If you are watching this on the Nourish Festival, welcome again to another morning of a Nourish Festival. I hope that you had an amazing time yesterday and that you learned a lot of stuff. There was so many awesome things to learn yesterday, and I was not able to see that cinnamon roll one, but man, I'm totally stoked about contacting that person to get some cinnamon roll recipe because it's fall and I've been craving cinnamon rolls. So if you're not at the Nourish Festival and you're watching this either on my YouTube channel live or you're watching this after this has been produced, this topic I'm going to talk about is gluten-free friendly ethnic foods. So if you're watching this, you may be gluten-free. You may know somebody who's gluten-free, like you may have a child that's gluten-free or a friend or a sister or a cousin or a niece or a grandma. You can actually get celiac disease at any point in your life. I met a man on a cruise who was like 66, I think, or 67 when he found out he had celiac disease, and he was not happy about that. So it's definitely hard for kids, but I don't know. I kind of think it might be harder for older people because you're so used to eating that way for like your entire life, 60 whatever years, and then all of a sudden you have to change. So anyway, there are certain types of ethnic foods that lend themselves better to being gluten-free because they're just more naturally gluten-free. Like they don't add a lot of wheat in their types of foods. So I'm going to talk about some of those types of foods right now. And so my first type I'm going to talk about is Indian food. I just ate some Indian food last night out at a local family-owned restaurant in Salt Lake. It's called Saffron Valley. It's amazing, amazing food. I love it, love it, love it. We've been eating there once a week lately. And I love supporting it because it's a woman-owned business. It's local, it's family-owned. And also Indian food really lends itself well to being gluten-free. Obviously the naan, the bread itself, is not gluten-free. But a lot of the dishes are like curries are generally like, I've not seen a curry that's had gluten in it unless it's like a tofu curry that the tofu has been fried. So if you just don't fry the tofu and put it in there, then it's gluten-free. But generally, a lot of Indian dishes are just naturally gluten-free. Not many of them actually have gluten added in them. And with the exception for naan, naan is really the only gluten-based, completely gluten-based product in Indian dishes that I've come across so far. And I've eaten at many, many Indian restaurants and love Indian cuisine. It's if you don't like spicy, you can tell them just to make it mild. They have mild, medium, and hot. And I've never tried hot. And I don't know if I'm ever going to be that brave to try hot, spicy food in Indian because Indian scale is like way hotter. Oh my gosh, it's crazy hot. So anyway, Indian food really lends itself well to gluten-free food. So if you are new to being celiac or new to being gluten-free and you're looking for a restaurant to eat it and you're really frustrated and you don't know what to try, definitely try something that's Indian cuisine based because a lot of their choices on the menu are going to be gluten-free. And I noticed one of the things I've noticed is that when I go into Indian restaurants, their servers are really well educated on what's gluten-free. Like I've never been to an Indian restaurant and the servers like weren't sure. And if they weren't, they were like super happy to go back and ask. And so I've always had good service at Indian restaurants, and I've always had a huge choice of food. So a lot of the times, the other thing that's cool too, is you go to an Indian restaurant and there's a huge choice of like almost everything on their menu pretty much is gluten-free. Then you can share dishes with the other person. They just have to know that to prep both dishes to be clean, to like ask them to put a gluten allergy tag on it. And so, and it's pretty easy because there's not a lot of gluten in the Indian kitchen. So you don't have to worry about cross-contamination as much. So obviously it could be, but because really naan is really the only thing that has a lot of gluten in it, there's not going to be a huge chance of getting cross-contaminated when you go to an Indian restaurant, which is really nice. So definitely Indian cuisine. You can share meals, which is really nice because that's something I hardly get to do with other people unless they are celiac as well. So anyway, Indian cuisine, really great. Definitely, if you are gluten-free, check out an Indian restaurant because you're going to have a lot of options on there. Next one is Nepalese, which you may not have tried before. There's actually an Indian and Nepalese restaurant in Salt Lake, and I am completely losing the name of it, the Kathmandu. They have two locations. If you're in Salt Lake, one is near the big Salt Lake Costco at 1818 South and 300. And then there's another one in Salt Lake. So Kathmandu has amazing food. And they have Nepalese and Indian food. So Nepalese is similar, but not the same as, obviously, Indian food. But they have a lot of naturally gluten-free dishes, just like Indian, because it's from the same kind of general vicinity. It's in Asia, but definitely different from Japanese and Chinese food, because Japanese and Chinese food in America has a lot of soy sauce. So you have to really be careful with that. That's not on the gluten-free friendly list, but Nepalese and Indian food definitely is. So if there's a Nepalese place near you, definitely check it out. Another place, speaking of Asia, is Vietnamese food. Vietnamese food, you can sometimes, there is definitely more gluten in it than I found than Indian and Nepalese food, because some of their meatballs might have gluten that they use and some of the other things. But just like the Nepalese and the Indian restaurants, I found that servers at Vietnamese restaurants are really knowledgeable, and they are really good about telling you what you can and cannot eat that is safe. So Vietnamese food, pho, there's the chicken pho, like pho noodles generally are rice-based. And so you can get pho, which I absolutely love. It's really great, especially if you're celiac, because sometimes your stomach's not 100% or your digestive system's not 100%. So pho is really great because it's really easy on your stomach. It's a soup. Soups are really good for your stomach. It's easy for your stomach to digest when you're not feeling that well. So definitely Vietnamese, definitely Indian food is really good and lends itself to gluten-free friendly ethnicity, and also Nepalese. Another one I'm going to talk about is seafood restaurants. And although seafood's not really an ethnicity, I find that a lot of seafood dishes are naturally gluten-free. So you can get like steamed seafood that's naturally gluten-free. Just make sure, one of the things you want to make sure with seafood is that it has not been marinated, because some of the marinades might have gluten, because one of the forms of gluten is a liquid form of gluten that can easily be put into marinades for thickening. And so that obviously you don't want to eat. So ask them if the seafood has been marinated. That's always a question you want to ask, or any meat, because never assume that meat or seafood is just going to be gluten-free, because if they put a marinade or a sauce on it, those two things can easily have gluten in them, and then they'll make you sick. So always ask if it's marinated, but seafood in general, you can pretty much get gluten-free, which is really nice, because steamed crabs, steamed shrimp, all that stuff, like grilled shrimp, just make sure that you clean the grill. But a lot of seafood dishes are naturally gluten-free, which is nice, so that you have a bigger choice when you go to seafood places. And all these seafoods, not an ethnicity specifically, you can do that. When I went to Norway, they had a Bergen fish market, which was beautiful and amazing. Just obviously, if you're vegetarian, not a great place to be, or vegan, but rows and rows of fish. They literally went out into the fjord that morning and caught, which it was just beautiful seafood. It was big. It was like vibrant color. I will definitely put pictures of it up on my Instagram at some point and make a video for you guys to watch. But the Bergen fish market was amazing, and just tons and tons of aisles and aisles of like dozens and dozens of vendors with fresh fish, and all of that was gluten-free. I didn't get any of it because I was on a cruise. Hello, Scott. Thank you for joining this morning. And I was on a cruise, and so I had eaten so much breakfast that morning. I wasn't hungry, but it was wonderful to take pictures of, and it was really great. In my book, The Guide to Traveling Gluten-Free, I actually have a picture at the Bergen Fish Market of someone selling reindeer and I think it was elk or moose burgers. And so they have a lot of different meats that they eat there, because that's what they have available. But anyway, seafood is not, even though it's not an ethnicity, is definitely a good way to go if you're gluten-free and you're looking for to eat out at a restaurant. Another one that is really good, going back to Asia, is Thai. Thai food, again, has a lot of curries, is really naturally gluten-free. Going back to Indian, one thing I did forget to mention is papadum. Papadum bread is actually not wheat-based. It is made with garbanzo beans. And it actually looks like it comes in it looks like a big taco shell. It's shaped like that, like a half a circle, but it's made just with garbanzo flour. I've never come across papadum that's had wheat in it. And so always double check when you go to a restaurant, but I have not come across papadum with wheat. It's always made with garbanzo bean flour, which is chickpea flour. And it's crispy. So it's kind of like eating a big, half circle tortilla chip. And they bring you these amazing dips. Just make sure to ask if the dips are gluten-free. And most of the time they are, but not all the time. So just check. And this mint dip, I can't remember what it's called, this mint sauce they use, but I just pour it on my papadum and eat it. It is so good. It's really good. And although it's more like a corn chip than real bread, it's just really nice to have something that's bread-like or crunchy to eat during your meal. So papadum is usually, I've never found papadum with gluten in it. So papadum's gluten-free, that's Indian. Thai food is usually naturally gluten-free, a lot of the dishes. You just have to watch out for the noodles because some Thai dishes have rice noodles in them and some have wheat. So always check with your server and make sure your server asks the chef if they don't know. So Thai food is good. American food. So here's the deal with American food. A lot of American food, like burgers, are usually gluten-free. You have to watch out for the sauces and marinades. But usually burgers are gluten-free, like corn on the cob. Hot dogs can be hit or miss, so you have to check. One of the hot dogs I get is Hebrew National. They're kosher and they're gluten-free. They're all 100% beef. So if you get 100% hot dogs, just watch out for vegetarian hot dogs because even though I am doing more plant-based stuff, a lot of plant-based stuff is gluten-based. So if you're getting prepared like seitan or things like that, they can usually have gluten in them. So you have to be really, really careful that you're not getting a vegetarian product that's gluten-free. And so American food, sometimes they may not have bread. Sometimes they might have gluten-free bread, which is great. A lot of times if they do have gluten-free bread, it's going to be like an Udi's roll or maybe a local place. Like in London, there was a local place that I ate at that had local gluten-free buns, which were like literally the best gluten-free buns I've ever eaten. It was amazing. If you haven't been to London, by the way, side note, it is like, obviously we can't go now, but if you, when gates open up and you can go to London, and if you're gluten-free, oh my gosh, it is like gluten-free foodie heaven in London. Okay, back to the subject of gluten-free friendly ethnic foods. Okay, Thai food is naturally gluten-free. And so be careful of the noodles, just be careful of the sauces. But a lot of stuff on the Thai menu will also be gluten-free, which is great because again, like Indian and other foods you can share with your friends and stuff like that. You don't have to worry about, just make sure nobody gets any dishes with gluten, which is pretty easy because a lot of the dishes are naturally gluten-free with Thai food. So, and just make sure that Thai food sometimes will use soy sauce. So make sure there's no soy sauce in anything because soy sauce in America is made with wheat. In Japan, it is not made with wheat. And so we just like to add wheat in lots of stuff. I'm not sure why. But anyway, just make sure it doesn't have any soy sauce in it and other gluten products, just ask them. And so just to sum it up, some gluten-free friendly ethnic foods. Oh, back to American really quick. Sorry, I didn't finish that one up. So American food, hot dogs, hamburgers, a lot of meat, usually just eat plain. I've done that before, where I'll get a side salad and I just get like a hamburger or something there. And so, it says we're reconnecting. While it is reconnecting, if you can see and hear me, I'm going to put in the chat a link for you to win a prize. So I'm doing some awesome prize giveaways this week, and let me put that in the chat here. All right, so if you want to sign up for a giveaway, go ahead and fill out this link. Please feel free to share the link with anyone else that's at the Nerd Festival or any of your other friends that you have that you'd like to win a prize. I'm giving away t-shirts, I'm giving away lemongrass spa cosmetics, recipe cards, and some other really great stuff. And so if you'd like to be entered into that, go ahead and fill out that, that giveaway link that I just put in the chat. And Scott, thank you for coming. It looks like I'm back on for sure. All right, so American food, get it lettuce wrapped or just get it on your plate. You don't have to get it lettuce wrapped if you don't like lettuce, and some people don't. And then just make sure whatever side you get, just double check with the servers that they're gluten-free. But American food, I found that a lot of restaurants that advertise that they're American cuisine or American fare have a pretty decent selection. A lot of times they'll modify stuff for you too if they don't have something that is like exactly gluten-free. So like a lot of this stuff, if it's not labeled gluten-free, usually it's because it has a bun with it, especially if it's a sandwich. But just find out if they can clean the grill and you can get whatever that is, the tofu, the chicken, the beef, or the turkey, or whatever it is, gluten-free, without any marinades or sauces. And a lot of times it can do that for you, and it's pretty easy. So if you have any other questions, definitely see me at Nourish Festival. If you're not at Nourish Festival today, you can always throw a question towards me at my website, travelglutenfreepodcast.com. And definitely while you're at it, check out on Amazon, The Guide to Traveling Gluten-Free. So if you want more information about this, check out my website, travelglutenfreepodcast.com. Click on book, and you can find out more information about the guide to traveling gluten-free. I do talk about how to find a great gluten-free restaurant and what questions to ask. So there's tons of information in there about that. All right, my gluten-free friends, remember to enjoy food, enjoy travel, and enjoy life. This is Aliquity, and I'm so glad you came to see the live today. So thank you, Scott, for coming to see the live today. And I'm signing off. I will be doing another live at 11 a.m. Mountain Standard Time, 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and I'm going to be changing my booth sign to show all of the different lives that I'm doing today. So we'll be doing another one at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, another one at 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and another one at 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I'll talk about gluten-free friendly cities you can eat at, places gluten hides, and the top chemicals to avoid in your skincare. So I hope you guys are having all a great day. If you're at the Nourish Festival, I hope to see you again on another live. Thanks, everyone.